Hello everyone and welcome back to Sports Chat with Rishabh, and today we have my close friend Subrata Ngadi, who is a cricket maniac like I am, and we're going to have a quick chat about the favorite topic of ours, cricket. And with the Bangladesh series going on against India, it's our privilege to talk about it because we are seeing the big cricketers like Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. So we are going to be touching upon that. Plus, we are going to talk about the upcoming series against New Zealand, as well as a little bit about Border Gavaskar Trophy. So before we start the video, hit that subscribe button to know more about the cricket analyst and Subrata Ongadi so that you don't miss any update. So hi Subrata, and how's it been with you?
It's been really good, Rishabh. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to talk about cricket. If we were in India, I'm sure we would be stuck to the television or perhaps in the ground, watching it live up and close. But living in Australia, it's a bit of a trick to find a time spot and then watch the games.
Yeah.
But with the test matches, it's a bit of a leisure because we can start watching at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and then it goes on till late evening, and then you just sit back and relax. So that's good. I'm more worried about how we'll manage the T20 series. It will mean that it will be a lot of late night,
Yeah.
perhaps early hours in the morning as well.
Oh yeah, that would
Um,
be starting around I think 11:30, 12. So that's
yeah,
midnight, and
midnight.
it's
Yeah.
Australia. We have to up
Yes.
for work and stuff. So, but I think that's something that will keep us awake as well. The T20 series.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And I hate it when that happens, especially um, yes, the international games are not as rapidly paced
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that you have a day off, sometimes 2 days off between a couple of matches. So it's
Yeah.
good to sit night watch and then you can sit back and relax. But IPL is the main pain. You have
Yeah.
to because I'm someone who tries to watch most of the games, if not all.
Mm-hmm.
So out of the 7 nights, I'm up 5 nights, and then I'm drooling all day. So that's I'm sure you have that same passion and problem, which
Same scenario.
most
Same
other cricket
scenario.
fans have. Yeah,
But if we
but yeah, it's
start,
very exciting.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's really exciting. The summer, like the cricket season has started. We were waiting for it for like after T20 World Cup. We were waiting
yeah,
like when the cricket start, because Sri Lanka series happened. We lost miserably.
yeah,
It's I
hmm,
think once in a lifetime thing which happened with Sri Lanka. I don't see them winning anymore
yeah,
against India. But when the test series started against Bangladesh, everyone had their reserves about who will play. Will Jasprit
yeah,
Bumrah play? He played.
hmm,
He destroyed the Bangladesh batting lineup. And with the help of Akashdeep, Mohammad Siraj, they showed that they have the depth in the pace bowling. So do you think they will be playing three pacers in the next test match in Kanpur, where usually we see a green tinge sometimes,
hmm.
but usually it's the spinners game as well?
Correct. I agree, and I think they should play three paces because it's best to play the three because it will help India test the depth of this bowling attack we have. We know the spinners will do the job because they've done the job in Indian subcontinent and in the Sena nations. It is time tested. But with the fast bowlers, we've had a couple of them injured, and we have a couple of new faces coming in as well. And it is very important to invest in the future. This is my
Hmm.
core belief. And I think when I saw Akash Deep run up and ball, even in the England game that he played a few months back,
Hmm.
there is a sense of confidence. He's lean, and his action is not injury prone like Bumrah's,
Yeah.
right? I think it's a much cleaner, much more conventional action. So I think he should get the opportunity again. Perhaps it's important to have the balance, even if Shami comes back, which he's scheduled to very soon. It will be still very good to have another second bowler ready to fire in case of an injury or a illness or whatever.
Hmm.
And I think they should go with three fast bowlers only on that account. I would say probably it's best to rest Bumrah right now.
Hmm.
Maybe give Yash Dayal a go this time.
Hmm.
It would mean Siraj will be leading the attack in the sense of leading the pack of three fast bowlers,
Hmm.
which is a good experience for him to build as well.
Hmm.
Like he had to do it on a couple of occasions in Australia, where we know that Bumrah, Siraj, and Shami, three of them have three different superpowers.
Hmm.
One has skill, one has persistence, and the other has consistency,
Hmm.
right? So it's also important for these traits to carry on to the younger generations. And only on that account, I think they should go with 3 fast bowlers.
So, Subrata, you're right on that scenario because if we see, India is going to play 3 test matches against New Zealand, where I think Bumrah might not be like he will be needed. Of course, it's New Zealand, but we don't have another pacer who could replace him in Australia. Because if we see, Shami, if he returns, Shami, Siraj, and Bumrah, they will be the frontline pacers in the Australia series. But
Yeah.
do they have someone like Bumrah, not exactly like his action, but someone who could match his pace? Because in Australia, as I was reading through the lines, between the lines, that Pat Cummins is saying that I'm going to add some more pace in my bowling. So that gives you an indication that the wickets are not going to be like the last time they've played on. It's going to be pacey, hard wickets. And you need someone who can click 140 consistently so that it troubles the batters. Because I think Travis said if he opens the batting, you need someone like who can swing the ball away from him as well with a good pace. So, does India have anyone? Because they tried Mukesh Kumar, uh, I think last year. He didn't do that well. We were expecting him to do in Indian conditions, of course. But he's someone who will be successful in England. But will they take him to Australia? Because he is clicking around 130, 125, and 30. I think that's not a good pace for Australian pitches. It's more like hit the ball and goes for a 6 kind of pace.
Right. Right.
So, do they have someone? Because they tried Prasidh Krishna as well this year, but he has not been selected in the Indian series, like the Bangladesh series, and hopefully not in the New Zealand series as well. So, I think he's going through an injury or something. So, if you have only tried 2 pacers in the last 3 years since the Border Gavaskar Trophy win, how is he going to India sustain in that 5 test match series? Because it's like you want to play Bumrah in every test match, but you can't. You need to pick your battle. You need to pick your battle to win the war.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think about that?
I think I'll begin with that proverb that you just quoted. You need to choose the battles that you win to win the war, right? And in saying that, it would mean you need to understand that Team India does not have express pace like Australia or England does, right? It's a problem we've had for a lifetime of the whole entire Indian team survival since the past 100 years or more. So if you look at the alternative options, we have in terms of promise, I'm talking who've been tested and who've done well, both at the IPL level and even in the international level in terms of the ODIs and T20s. I think a couple of options that really come to my mind are Arshdeep, but he lacks pace. But he has very good control of line, right? He has an upright action, which gives him that advantage on the bouncy wickets in Australia, right? So I would look at him. I would look at Akashdeep very closely, right? Like I said, his action is very smooth, not very prone to injury, which is very good, right? He's not very young, but he still has like a good 3-4 years of cricket in him, right? So he's probably these two are my solid options that India can invest in, given that Shami is coming back, right? We've also got Khalil Ahmed in the lines. We've got Yash Dayal in the lines. The good thing is all the other options that we have at the moment are all upright bowlers. Nobody is going to be bending their backs as much as Jasprit does for his action. So that means they're far more injury averse, right? But among these options that we just spoke about, the 3 or 4, the fastest is Akashdeep, right? We do have the option of Avesh Khan, who has delivered on and off, but I don't know if he's ready for red ball cricket. By the little I have seen of all these players, I think Akashdeep is the top 4, can be added among the top 3 as the number 4, or perhaps number 5 with Shami coming in, depending on the game that they're bowling. I would probably bank on Akashdeep only because of his action, his ability to bat as well, from what I've read on stats in his domestic games, and the pace that he has to offer. I also see when you look at his around the wicket deliveries, they go. There's a bit of a seam movement that happens. There's a good movement in the air. Seems like he has good control over the deliveries. And this is all from the perspective of television. I'm sure the selectors would have a couple other factors in their mind. But I would bet big and deep on Akashdeep.
If we move to the second test match happening in Kanpur, we talked about like India should play three pacers, but it's the home ground of Kuldeep Yadav as well. Do you think if push comes to shove, will Kuldeep Yadav be played ahead of Akshar Patel or Akashdeep? Because Akashdeep only bowled, I think, what, 11, 12 overs in the whole game, whereas Bumrah bowled, what, around 20, 22, 23 overs. So do you think having a spinner extra instead of a pacer, do you think will it help on a Kanpur pitch?
So now there are two things that we need to consider here, right? I have a feeling Bumrah will be rested, only because there's quite a possibility that India will win the game convincingly, right? So that gives a couple of options to come into the game. Yash could make his debut perhaps in tests, which is a good likelihood, and I would want that to happen because it's best to give debut games to players in not very high pressure games, right? Given that we have the momentum on our side, our batsmen, our middle order is doing really well. In fact, our lower order has outshined the others, right? So there's promise in the batting. So it's best to give Kuldeep a chance as well. And the problem again comes with who are you going to rest? Is it going to be Jadeja? Is it going to be Ashwin, or is it going to be a batter? Because Kuldeep can also bat. He can sustain, perhaps. He will probably not score runs as well as Jadeja and Ashwin will. But it's a decision that team has to make, and I don't think they would want to walk those lines yet. They may want to give one more game, some game time to Jadeja and Ashwin, and maybe rest either of them in the first game against New Zealand in the Test series. And there probably Kuldeep will get a chance because New Zealand batsmen are again not very used to the Chinaman bowling that Kuldeep has to offer. I think there are a lot of moving pieces. It's hard to decide. And yes, Kanpur has had traditionally green-looking pitches, but are they going to stick with that? Given that Bangladesh also has a very good fast bowler who's very young, and their fast bowlers did a much better job than their spinners. Shakib was clearly suffering. So does that mean that because Shakib is suffering in terms of the form in the first game, he may come back because he's a legend in his own right. They may want to stick to turning pitches, right? Just to sheerly dominate, because we clearly Indian batting is much stronger and more matured. So in saying that, I would really want to see two things happen. I would want to see Bumrah rest, so that he can maybe play a couple of games against New Zealand, and then maybe four in Australia. That's probably one thing I would like to see.
Would you would India rest KL Rahul, or like they would might, because he performed decently. I wouldn't say he didn't perform. He batted beautiful in the second innings when Shubman Gill was going bonkers. Rishabh Pant scored a century, and but somewhere KL Rahul might have felt a little bit left out because he was batting good in the first innings as well. He couldn't capitalize. The second innings he was batting good, but couldn't reach a 50 because they declared before. So do you think
Correct.
KL Rahul might, like, it's not a possibility he might be arrested because Sarfaraz Khan and everyone are going to the Irani trophy, Irani Cup, to play those 5-day game. So KL Rahul, do you think he has a chance to perform in a better way in this test match?
It really depends on how game is happening on either side of him, right? If the top order does fairly well, the pressure of performance is slightly less on him, right? His job essentially is to anchor the bridge between the top order and the lower order, right? In case there's a, say, fall of 3 or 4 wickets in the first 20 overs, all he has to do is bat for at least 30, 40 overs, or perhaps the rest of the day, right? And that is really the design of that number 5, 6, right? Because the 6, 7 are meant to anchor as much as possible, because we know 1 or 2 runs per over is a easy possibility these days. And if you look at test matches across the past decade or so, the run rates have been much higher. Games are being wrapped up in 3 days or lesser, right? If such a situation happens where wickets are lost rapidly, the idea is to stretch the game to as much as possible, which he has the capacity of doing, which he has done in the past, right? And in on that note, I think India would want to play him as much as possible, because with KL Rahul, much like Hardik Pandya, there's a lot of chatter that comes as a baggage with him because of his style of play, right? It's important for us as fans to understand his style of play is dictated by the need of the team. And the fact that he's accepted it and is retaining that game style is amazing. It's much like Rahul Dravid. You have to salute him for that. Rahul Dravid could have been a much bigger player if he played for his own ambitions, right? And much like him, I think KL Rahul also lets go of his ambitions personally for the team's goal of coming as the winners. So on that note, I think I would want him to play as many tests as possible, because when Team India travels to Australia, which is the more celebrated game at this point, and with the WTC in mind, it's very important for him to have that sense of confidence in himself and realize that the management also believes in him. And that belief can be indicated in two ways. One is retaining him as much as possible, and second, letting him be free in terms of his own stroke making. I see that when you look at videos where Indian team is practicing, there's a sense of calm, there's a sense of fun that you can see, and I think that is being reflected on the field as well, which is great to see. I must say. And I think just to wrap on this question, I think KL should be playing as much as he can, because there's no real risk to injury. However, if in case if Rishabh Pant has say pulled a muscle or two, I would want Dhruv Jurel to come and keep instead of Rahul, because it's good to test the depth of the wicket keeping as well. Dhruv has done amazing job in T20 for the franchise that he plays for, but it's also important to test him in red ball, because red ball does a lot more than white ball, and it will do differently in overseas conditions. But it's good to test him in Indian subcontinent.
In the second game, do we think Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma will be able to put some runs on the board? Because of course they were they are the biggest players of the game, for especially in Indian cricket. So I think the first test failure might not be counted because they were coming after a big time of not playing game. So do you think they will score good runs in this test match?
I think they'll score good runs. It also depends if India is going to bat first. Because if India bats second and if they wrap Bangladesh for a small number, they may not have the time to really build their game as much, right? So in that sense, maybe Team India could come up with a strategy saying we'll bat first, so that our batsmen get to build the game at their own pace, rather than working on a first innings lead given to us, right? Of course, that does not mean if we breach the lead, we have no more to play for. It's also important for us to then give a massive lead to put Bangladesh out of the game. I think it will really be determined by how the team wants to play this. And I'm sure in either situations, both Rohit and Virat, in their own sense, would be wanting to dominate. Because the more runs they have behind them, the more confident they will be against New Zealand and ultimately against Australia for the end of the year. And remember, after these first few months of back-to-back test matches, we've got the sudden surprise of Champions Trophy, right? Which is in a way a funny situation, because just before that, India is going to play England. So suddenly everything changes. The style of play changes. The conditions change. They go back from Australia to India, which is again very different. White ball will do different things here. So in that sense, both Rohit, Virat, and even KL would want to have a century or two between now and before they go to Australia, just to build that sense of confidence.
Last question. What will be your squad for the New Zealand series? Like, are you looking someone from out of the box, from either Dilip Trophy or Adani Trophy, which happens? Who do you think can make into that squad to just be as a backup, either a fast bowler or as a batter? Who do you think?
Right. I think I don't really have a big surprise selection or a choice. I would like to see Riyan Parag play, because I've been following him as well very closely. There's again a bit of controversy happening, and which is fair for any young rising cricketer in India.
Hmm.
But when you look at his stroke play, especially compare him to today and 3 years ago,
Mhm.
Rajasthan really banked on him, and I would always wonder, why is this the situation? Is
Hmm.
there something truly in him? And
Hmm.
then I saw him dominate in the domestic games,
Hmm.
right? If you look at his stroke making, you look at his, always when you judge a good batter, you look at his elbow, right?
Hmm.
Because the bottom hand for any right hand batsman or the bottom hand for any left hand batsman is always going to be strong.
Hmm.
They are going to be risky in Indian conditions. But you look at the elbow positions, that is when you know the player is good. He knows
Hmm.
his technical strengths.
Hmm.
And that is what you see in Virat Kohli. If you look at a clip of Riyan Parag and look at his cover drive or any of the drives through the square, you will see that his elbow and his forearm is very, very much in control. His head is in the right place. I think
Mhm.
he can do really well for the Indian middle order as a part of the next generation.
Hmm.
And in terms of the bowlers, I would like to really see Akashdeep being played more often,
Mhm.
and not just giving him this one-off game and then resting him forever.
Hmm.
I think giving him that game time will be really useful, and also maybe giving an opportunity to Ashdeep in red ball.
Hmm.
These three players I would really want to see consistently, um, because these are really the future because of their age more
Hmm.
than anything else. So that's my pick.
My pick will be similar as well, because if we see the batting lineup, like chooses itself. Rohit Sharma,
Yeah.
Jaiswal, Kohli, Shubman Gill, KL Rahul, Rishabh Pant. These are the top six batters you have. After that, Jadeja, Ashwin, surely. I would go with I would pick Akshar and Kuldeep, but it would be interesting to see if you can play at least three of them against New Zealand.
Mm.
Because if you're not playing
Mm.
three of them against New Zealand, it's not a worthwhile choice to pick four spinners in the squad.
Right.
Because
Right.
if you have to pick three spinners, you need to pick the best.
Right.
You won't pick Jadeja and Akshar together. It doesn't make any sense. You will have to
Right.
either pick Jadeja or Akshar in the playing 11. So when it comes to Jadeja and Akshar, I think Jadeja obviously has the upper hand, but they should try and play Kuldeep Yadav in this test match as well, in the Bangladesh test match, as well as in the New Zealand test match, because they are mostly on the, I would say, spin tracks.
Correct.
It's, I think, Mumbai as well they're playing at. So it's, I think, more spinner dominated game in Mumbai as well. So I think they
Right.
should play. They should have Kuldeep Yadav and Akshar both in the squad, but in the playing 11, it comes to, I think, only Kuldeep Yadav playing ahead of Akshar Patel if it comes to it. But in the pace department, I think I would like to see Shami, who should be returning if he gets fit. I hope he
Mm.
does, if not for the first test match, but for the last two test matches before the Australia series start. So Shami,
Right.
Bumrah, Akashdeep, Yash Dayal I would keep, but if you're not playing him, I don't see him coming into those pictures against New Zealand, especially. If you want to take him as a backup bowler against Australia, that's fine, because you need at least a good backup pace attack when you go to Australia. I would like
Right.
to see, as you mentioned, Arshdeep, because a lot of
Yeah.
talks were going about him playing in this Bangladesh series as well as New Zealand. So if it comes to it, Arshdeep is a good choice to have and play him in that series. But apart from that, I think the squad chooses itself.
Yeah.
Sarfaraz Khan, if he is available to play international and he's not playing domestic, I think he is coming in for sure. But if I want to also ask you like a quick yes or no, if KL Rahul have these four games as a bad game scenario kind of thing, do you think Sarfaraz will be at a number five player in Australia?
That's a tricky one. If he has really bad 0.5, 0.5 or less than 20, then yes, Sarfaraz will be picked because there'll be too much pressure to not pick him.
So I think this is it, guys, for today. Thank you, Subrata, for joining me. I think we got carried away so much in this talk that we could have talked for another hour, but I think this is time for us now. But thank you guys for watching this video. If you're liking this content, go and subscribe to the Cricket Analyst as well as to Subrata Angadi. I've mentioned the handles below here, and as well as go to our Insta pages and follow our social media content as well. So thank you, Subrata, for being here today. And it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Rishabh. It's been a pleasure. Honestly, it's probably a lot more comforting to talk to someone who also knows the game so deeply as you do, which is great. And I appreciate this, and looking forward to more such conversations because we have a very busy summer coming up for cricket,
Mhm.
both back in India and onshore in Australia. So let's try and have conversations around it, and I hope audience from both of our pages can find value in this.